and you have to be severe with the punishment. It should be an account ban.
What would you say to an IP ban, sir?
Oh man, as a person who just got IP banned.
Sometimes these alternatives to account bans are just
shots fired.
That is hardcore on that one.
Welcome to Disparate Worlds, where an irresistible force meets an immovable object. I'm Mox, and this is Sechari, and we are comparing and contrasting the worlds of Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, and Ashes of Creation.
Indeed. Hello to you, friends, and welcome. Welcome to Disparate Worlds, episode number 18. Before we continue, let me just urge you...
It's not episode number 18, you noob.
What do I need to learn to play?
Yeah,
Is
LTP.
that what you're saying? Why are you being so abusive to me, Mox? Ow! You hurt my feelings.
Because we're discussing bad behavior.
Oh, right, we are abusing each other. Actually, no, we're talking about you abusing us, is really what we're talking about. Yeah, like and subscribe, please. We would love it. Give us some support. We always want to throw that out there as well. Yes, Mox touched on what we are talking about. Bad behaviors and the gamut thereof of terrible things people can do to wreck an MMO and make it awful for everybody else to play.
Right.
We're going to do that. We're going to have some guests on as well. We will introduce them here in a few as we get into our body segment. This is going to be a long episode because there's a lot of yak. In fact, it's pre-recorded, so we know there was a lot of yak. We just now have to turn it upon you. So
yeah, we had allotted, we're like, oh, it'll be 20 to 30 minutes. 1 hour and 7 minutes later.
So we're gonna try to keep a pace going through all this stuff. So
yes.
Let's touch on the news.
In Pantheon news, we have just a couple items. The May Developers Roundtable came out with Joppa, and there is some fantastic stuff in there. I've not gotten a chance to actually listen to it yet, but Draq from Pantheon Plus did an extensive kind of bullet point of the topics and the answer, the question and the answer kind of thing. Really, really good. And the biggest, coolest thing that I saw in that list was that they're taking another look at the class and race restrictions.
Yes.
Really interesting.
Speaking of class and race restrictions, what is going on with your t-shirt, sir? You aren't wearing your standard uniform.
Well, yes, I am in my
Is that your
Pantheon.
Have you enchanted yourself?
I have. I am.
Very cool.
I'm walking around trying to mesmerize and stun people, but it is not working.
But he's just mesmerizing himself.
Yes,
and
exactly.
stunning
I'm inflating my head more, as Sechari would say.
Yes, pumping it up, I'll tell you.
So, and then in other news, we were supposed to have the May developers live stream that was put on hold due to someone being ill. That will be out next week, and they will be covering their Road to Alpha progress. So look for that next Thursday, I believe, May 13th.
Yes.
What's going on in the world of Ashes?
It is happening. Okay, so more of the Steven coverage. Lately, he's been sharing a few cosmetic details. I think they're working quite seriously on hairstyles.
I haven't seen a bald hairstyle yet. Do they have one?
Sir, in Ashes of Creation, where everything is perfect, nobody is bald, sir. I've probably made half our audience angry. Everyone with a shaved head is now mad at me. Oh, goodness me. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to. Yeah, I mean, he's been sharing some stuff. It's been pretty cool. Like, I appreciate that Steven is using his Twitter account just to kind of leak cool things, give us a little, like a side stream of studio updates. I just think that's great. Good to see.
Yep.
May 5th, Brine and Bounties is the name of this new cosmetic set that came out. So do check that out. It's very, it's very oceanic. How about I say that?
It's meh.
It's a jellyfish / coral theme kind of a thing. I kind of like that.
There's lots of teal.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
But that's not the big news.
No, it's not. The big news, of course, is the same day, Alpha 1 sales went live. So what they did is they added another tier on top of the highest tier you could have been to that point. It was Voyager Plus was previously known. I think at that stage you've invested about $375. For a crank up of another 125 up to a level of 500, you could make yourself an adventurer pack holder. So, you know, if you're already like a Voyager Plus, you just pay the difference. Or if you have none of it, you can pay the whole shebang, right? And then you end up, you know, this top tier person with access to Alpha 1, at least what's left of Alpha 1. And then, again, there's I don't know if it gets you into the coming session, but I do know it gets you to the full month-long June, quote-unquote, Alpha 1 proper. So we do know that. But, one of the things that I was shoring up is because I had set myself a limit of 150. I was a Voyager Plus. I think anything more than that, I would have said, okay, I'll just watch over other people's shoulders as they stream this thing. But, you know, it came into 125, so I was down. But in looking over what, you know, do I want to do this, at the Adventurer Pack level, you are 11 months of playtime, which is about $165 value already in the bank, and $16,000 in embers. Sorry, 16,000 embers, which is $150 in-game. And that's their in-game marketplace, right? Their cosmetic shop.
Right.
So, I mean, for that, even though there's quite a hefty sum up front, there's a lot of playtime and there's a lot of embers, you know, a lot of in-game currency for the market that you get out of it. So I thought to myself, okay, let's do this. So I jumped in and will be probably trying to live stream and grab as much footage and do as much testing as I can of Alpha 1 as I can.
Yeah.
So very cool.
You know, you have about $315 out of your $500 that you're going to get some additional value out of.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
you know, that's pretty reasonable. So $150 gets you all of that playtime from June through whenever it launches.
Then Alpha 2 and Beta 1 and Beta 2, you have access to the whole journey from here on out.
Exactly. So you'll have a lot of playtime in before release.
Yes, absolutely. But I mean, it's not quote-unquote playtime, right? It's testing time. You're in there helping the studio out. They're allowing you to kind of peek, you know, I think to some degree behind the curtain. But I believe the NDA is lifted at that point, so you'll be able to share it with friends. And it's just good. I think it's going to be great to be a part of the journey.
And Steven did admonish multiple times, both last month and in this month's stream, saying that you're not there to play the game. You're there to test the game and to give us feedback and to be constructive. And so if you do take part in this, and we will have links as to how you can do that, make sure you're entering it with that knowledge that you are going to be expected to like give feedback and be critical, but be constructively critical.
Right.
Is the important thing.
Absolutely. And that's what we try to do on the show, right? Is be honest, tell it like we see it. I think that's all they're asking for you to do, is actually really give them helpful feedback. So we'll see how it goes. Along those lines, how it's going, we are already quite some bit into this episode and are belaboring our body, the body of the episode, sir. How about we intro it?
Bad behaviors in MMOs. I think for the most part we agree on most of these things. What is bad behavior?
Right.
And the question then becomes, what should the studios do about it? What should the communities do about it? And that's kind of what we tackled with our guests.
Absolutely. So just a warning to you, again, this is a long conversation, and there was apparently a lot more to say than I thought there would be. There was a lot, and really good nuggets of thought. There was the odd thing that was just absolute gold in that would come out of that conversation. And then we talk about something else, and then there was another one. So we skipped, I think, from really good insight to really good insight. It's worth seeing. We're to help you guys out, because I know very long, by all means, watch this whole episode if you want. But if there's something that you are particularly interested in, we're going to make sure to have a good slate of navigation down below. You can skip specifically to something that you care about. So that is what we will do. Let's get into it.
So tonight's discussion is about bad behaviors in MMOs and what we think the Intrepid Studios and Visionary Realms should do about these bad behaviors, how they should handle them, and things of that nature. We did submit questions to both studios about the topics that we're going to discuss tonight. And we will follow up with that later on this summer with their answers. But with Ashes being focused on their Alpha 1, they asked us to kind of wait on their replies, which we're happy to do, and we'll get back to them when we hear back from them. We'll kind of summarize both studios' stances on these behaviors at that time. Joining us, though, we have two very special guests. Sechari, you want to tell us about our first guest?
Do I dare? That's the question. What am I about to unleash upon the world of Ashes of
Negative
Creation?
30 followers, I think.
All right. The guy currently making eyebrow signs at you and sporting the well, not anymore. Is our friend Boomy. You can find him on Twitter at Boomy Nation, all one word, and on YouTube if you search Boomy Space Nation. Yeah, give it a good kiss. That'll be all right. Boomy is an old friend of ours from our days content creating for Star Wars: The Old Republic, and is a current SWTOR content creator.
That's true.
Yes, and I've been hoping to sucker him into content creation for Ashes of Creation. I don't know how close he is, but
it's getting there. Watch. Soon.
Excellent.
About a week.
Well, I am going to give him a nice. Boomy, you're going to be the first guy I get to give a golden flame to, a camera frame. Everybody else so far has been Pantheon folks. I know, right?
They've got.
I need a moment.
So welcome, Boomy, to the show. Good to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
Or whichever personality of yours showed up tonight.
You're great.
And not to be overshadowed by Boomy, we are also joined by Draq from Pantheon Plus. You can find him at twitter.com/PantheonDraq, for the moment at least. Or probably more permanently, you can find him at twitter.com/Pantheon Plus. So check him out there. He's a great content creator. In fact, he's featured in our news episode, the news party episode this week. Welcome, Draq.
Woo! Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you. I am your Pantheon profiler. So yeah, love.
Speaking of which, you need to reconnect with my cohort over there and get him to like fully submit to the profile.
It's very true.
Oh, yes.
Mox and Sechari his profile, and so he's good. But Sechari is slacking, and so he needs to get
I
over
do
that.
owe you. Yes, that is.
It might
that is
have
true.
moved you up in the draft had you done your profile.
Oh, is that what it was?
So that's where the fault lies.
Yeah. So I do want to say at this junction, this guy Draq is the reason that Mox's head has been pumped up so much the last episode.
We have to
Selected him
do
as a
something about that.
first round draft.
Yes. Excellent. All right, so let's jump right into it, guys. Tonight's topic, we're going to discuss negative behaviors in MMOs. This doesn't nearly mean to be focused on specifically Ashes of Creation and Pantheon. It's just generally bad behaviors. And then the question is, with these two games coming out, what should these studios do to prevent these behaviors, if they should prevent them at all? Because I think out of the 5 main negative behaviors that we've kind of narrowed it down to, 4 of them are slam dunks. Like, we're all going to be like, yeah, this is negative behavior. But there's one in there that I think is going to maybe spark some discussion as to, is it truly negative or not? So we're going to discuss toxic chat, the buying and selling of gold, botting, multiboxing, and then kill stealing. Oh, and training mobs. I guess there's 6. How did I miss that? All right.
I was
So
going to say,
anyway.
does it make me a bad person if I got 2?
Right. Yeah. So what this really is an expose on who all's been doing this and a.
Right. Yeah.
That kind of episode you've all been sucking.
I have installed a VPN, so they can't track me down.
Right.
There you go.
When you have to play with your
Same.
IP address.
That's right.
We did do a community poll as well, which I don't know. Should we discuss that first, or should we wait till the end and reveal the results of that? Sechari, what do you think?
I say let's do that now, and we'll talk
Okay.
about it as we'll unpack it as we go.
Okay, so when I put this out, for some reason, I only put 5 of our 6 topics out there, but it still is very telling. The buying and selling of gold by far is the most concerned thing of the community at large, followed by toxic chat, then multiboxing, then kill stealing, then the training of mobs, which I don't know. Apparently, Minus is pro training of mobs. I don't like. Can you explain that, Draq? I don't understand.
No, I'm also pro training of mobs. So we'll get into that when we get there.
Ooh, that sounds
Okay.
good. So
All
yeah,
right.
we had 31 respondents. 31 people voted for us. So thank you all for those of you who did.
Right.
Of those topics, by far, the gold selling was the number one. Gold selling seems to me to be the of all of these negative behaviors that people are the most annoyed with, that's the one they want to address the most.
Right.
Boomy, have you been selling any gold lately that I need to be aware of?
I cannot talk about it.
Selling cigars or some other currency? I see how it is.
But in World of Warcraft, you can sell your gold within the game, so like that's okay to do. You can use your gold to buy you can use money to buy a game time token, which you can then sell for gold within the auction house. So there is a mechanism in which you can legally within the game turn cash into gold.
Right. Okay, so the question here is this. It's going to be largely for all of these different things, with the exception of one or two that I think that we're going to be able to debate. This is bad. Don't do it. Right? It's naughty. Don't do it. Right? Slap on the hand.
Yeah.
Half the question is going to be what should the studio do in the game? You know, or how would you love to see the game address this problem? Right? If you think it's a problem. So
let's start off with you, Draq. What do you think as far as like what would be your solution to this problem?
Right. So obviously, gold selling, that's the one I voted for. That's the slam dunk of this whole list, right? There's nobody that's for gold selling because it's a cancer on the game. It's they're predators, right? They prey on people. Sometimes they scam people as they're selling gold, like they scam credit cards. Like it's just a nasty business. The way that I would solve this problem is you have to have a really good reporting system, and you have to have in-game GMs that handle this situation. And you have to be severe with the punishment. It should be an account ban. And if you have, there needs to be some kind of monetary thing that goes along with that. So if the game requires a box price and then you account ban them, they can't get back in with that code. They have to buy another box to get back in. And that usually, for games that have done that usually is enough to keep the gold spammers at least at bay.
what would you say to an IP ban, sir?
Oh man, as a person who just got IP ban.
Sometimes these alternatives to account bans are just
shots fired.
That is hardcore on that.
Too soon, Sechari. Too soon.
I think I'm fine with the IP ban as long as you have a system to where you can like contact GMs or contact the company, and you can like plead your case at least.
Yeah, some kind of appeal system, right?
Right. You need to be able to at least plead your case at some point, which I was not able to do with the Twitter people.
There's a story. I'll let him tell his own story on his own time.
Yes.
But
so I have a question for Boomy. You've played SWTOR, which had trial accounts, and the credit sellers and farmers were notorious for using those. Ashes of Creation is going to have a zero cost, but a sub price. So given that that's kind of similar in that it's free to get on board, so to speak, what do you think Ashes could do to counteract this? Because there is no box price, as Draq mentioned, as being a potential kind of workaround.
I think whether or not there's a price, we're going to still deal with the cancer that is the gold buyers out there. So no matter what a developer company does, those people will always find a way to come in and try to sell whatever type of currency, whatever type of game it's in. So what we need to do, we need to crack down hard on those people. How that is, I'm not on the back end. I don't know how they do that. I know SWTOR back in yonder day got an ex-Navy SEAL or something like that who got someone to do it, but I constantly see it all the time. So you're playing this game, right? You're playing the game that will try to one up the bad people who are trying to sell currency for profit somewhere else, taking away profit from the game as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where we need to deal with it, but it's almost a catch-22, right? Where you want to deal with it, you need to deal with it, but you're fighting like almost between you and a brick wall on how to fight it, because they're constantly moving almost faster than the developer company is on this one.
They're innovative, right? They're coming up with new ways to handle it or get around you. They VPN in, so to speak, to get around the IP ban.
Right. It's almost as if, let's just call SWTOR out, right? Because I play a lot of World of Warcraft, but I mainly do stuff for SWTOR, Star Wars: The Old Republic. It's almost as if, let's say, BioWare needs to hire one of these gold buyer people and figure out what they're doing to counteract what they're doing in this thing. There have been plenty of times to where I genuinely turn off general chat just because I honestly don't care. But in that aspect, recently, tons of gold buyer stuff, tons of mail in my inbox from gold buyer stuff, or whatever currency you were talking about, whatever game we're talking about. But it's literally like you're just sitting there with a bunch of Hot Pockets and a lot of coffee and whatever type of energy drink you're in, trying to compete with the gold buyers, trying to get them to stop. It's almost like it's just, you're going to lose, but you have to play as if you're not going to lose. That makes sense.
It does. Let's turn the tables a little bit. You guys have talked a lot about the gold sellers, and you've mentioned the gold buyers, Boomy. Sechari, what do you think about the gold purchasers? Like, do you think they should incur some level of responsibility because it takes two people to have a transaction?
It does, yes, and you are participating in it. I mean, it's the same thing, right? Like, I've heard somewhere along the line that every dollar you spend is a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. And so when you reward that behavior, crime pays, so to speak. So they do it, right? You've incentivized them doing it. If nobody bought the gold, there wouldn't be a market there. They are catering to a market that actually has a desire for their service. Now, that's half the problem, is that the community is in on it, right? Like, there is some corruption in the community, and that they're also fighting too. But now the studio is in catch-22 here. You want to punish them to make them not do it because it's wrecking your game, but you can't punish your community because they're the ones subbing to your game, right? So you're hurting yourself financially the harder you are on this. So what does a studio do? Well, temporary bans. Maybe I don't know. You've got to come up with some kind of a compromise to handle it.
I've never heard of any studio banning buyers. I think that would take a large amount of cojones to do.
The most egregious. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody who's just trashing their system constantly. I have heard of permanent bans here and there. But typically, every case of punishment that I have ever heard a studio do is I would say is probably more on the lenient side, because again, that's your bread and butter, right? That's your source of income, and you can't hurt that too much. And so I think there's a degree to which the studio is kind of has their hands tied in dealing with it. So the question is, then, do we lean on a third party to police that? That's not necessarily
so by
in the
bringing
studios.
a third party in, that alleviates the responsibility from the studio because somebody else is doing the banning, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not in the studio's best interest to do that. So it's almost like a legislative thing, right? Like you have to have policemen or something. I don't know. Like
the United Nations,
some kind of
regulatory
sellers. Yeah, I don't know. So, but I mean, how do you solve that? Because it's not in the studio's best interest to combat that,
right?
I think,
financially.
If I might say something, I think we're in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Absolutely.
I think, without destroying my NDA, BioWare has done a lot on the back end from in the past, from discouraging the gold sellers, and there was a time when you really didn't see them on general chat, on fleet chat. You didn't really see them in your email, and that's when they hired some ex-CIA, FBI, Navy SEAL, whatever you have it. They probably wrote a book and made a movie about them, but that's when you didn't really see anything. But recently, you start seeing them again, right? So you do have to deal with that aspect of company makes money, company doesn't make money. So I can see on their end where they're like, eek, what do we do? But at the same time, I generally just turn off general chat and delete the messages.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's how you're responding as a community member.
Right.
Right.
And I tell my community to do the same thing. Like if they have an issue with these gold sellers or whatever toxic, whatever. I know we'll get to that in a later bit, but just turn it off. The best thing you can do is ignore them. I would love to know, and I don't know if we'll ever know these numbers. I'll have to email them. What the numbers are of people who actually hit the buy button.
Yeah.
On the gold sellers. I would love to know that number. I think that, to me, that would answer a lot of questions, but I would love to know that number.
Yeah.
It's got to be a big number, because I don't know if you guys remember, like, what was it, three years ago or whatever? WoW went through and banned a whole this was just the gold sellers that they banned, not the buyers, just the sellers, and it was like 6,000 to 7,000 accounts. Like, it was a big deal, and they like announced it, and they were like, "Hey, we banned like 7,000 accounts." That's just the sellers, so they got to be making. I mean, it's got to be a lot of people.
So another thing that they do
is also has the option to purchase it in game.
Right.
Oh, so, I believe it. I believe it 100% with World of Warcraft and with Star Wars: The Old Republic. And I play both games religiously, and I've seen it in both games. I totally believe it. The gold sellers and the credit sellers make a butt ton of money.
Yeah.
On the people who want to, not to be old and get off my lawn type of person, but that's who I am. Who want to get ahead of the game, pay to play or pay to win, rather.
Right.
To do things instead of working towards your credits. Getting gold in World of Warcraft is a lot easier than it was 10 years ago.
Right.
It is. Even when I level, I'm like, wow. I wish I made 50 gold doing one quest 10 years ago than I do now.
So that's a way to disincentivize it, right? Is to just make gold so easy to come by that there's just no
but that screws with the economy. So
it does, yeah. So you sacrifice your economy's integrity in order to get rid of the people that are wrecking your economy.
I think we could probably talk about this for hours, and we really should probably move on to another topic, though. But I think we all agree that something needs to be done about gold selling and buying, and hopefully both studios will have an answer to dealing with it. Let's talk about the next most popular topic in the community, which was toxic chat, which can take lots of different flavors. It could be just people like yelling stuff out in general chat, like offensive stuff, racist stuff, things that just are not appropriate for mixed company. It also can be you exit a war zone, you were in a group, and somebody like just sends you a direct message like, you suck, you're the worst, you should kill yourself, like things like that, and that happens.
Learn to play, noob.
Right, exactly. That's probably the least toxic of what you'd hear, but it's out there. Right. So you have, on one hand, you have freedom of speech. So you have everybody does have rights within things, but we're in a private game. So what's the studio's responsibility in dealing with toxic chat? Now, Boomy, you mentioned that you turn off general chat in SWTOR. I can tell you that's something that I did with every new character that I had, and Draq knows I had a lot of new characters in SWTOR. Yeah. I turned off general chat in every single one of them.
It's part of your character creation process, right?
Yeah.
The moment your character puts a foot in the ground, that's the first thing you turn off.
So Boomy, aside from giving us the option of muting the channel, what's the studio's responsibility?
That, I know why you got me on this. That is a tricky question. right? I'm with you 100%. Free speech, 100%, right? People could say stupid things, and they do, no matter where you are, in game, in real life, whatever. The studio's responsibility, should they police some things? Yeah, a little bit. But I also think it's not just the studio's responsibility. I think it's the player's responsibility as well. The player, we try not to get on my soapbox here. The player needs to learn how to ignore things and turn off things. There are some things you just can't ignore, right? If a player's being extremely toxic and they're just like following you to every tune, which, by the way, losers. Yeah. Contact your CM, contact the studio, let them know who these people are, give them their tune name and whatnot.
Take screenshots.
Yeah.
Right? Take screenshots. They're douche canoes. That's what they are. They have nothing going on in life. Do that. I'm gonna be really harsh in these situations, but when it comes down to it, to the overall everyday scenario, there are things that are going to offend you that might not offend someone else.
Yeah.
So we have to take that also into account. And you have to ask yourself, does this really bother me? Can I just ignore this? Turn off general chat. Click the ignore button. There's a reason, and I say this in my videos a lot to my own community. There's a reason there's an ignore option. Click it. Ignore them. If someone else does
let me interrupt you there. How many years did it take SWTOR to put in an ignore legacy button option?
How many years has it taken SWTOR to do anything?
For our viewers that don't have the context, this is getting around the idea that somebody's harassing you on one tune, so you ignore them, and then they start a new tune.
Or they just switch to a different tune.
It's kind of like hey, ban every tune that person has, in order to... And honestly, I think that's probably something a studio should have in their pocket on launch. Because the moment you have tens of thousands of people playing a video game together, you're going to have some of this. And
you have conflict.
And we need people to have the tools to defend themselves. So that's not something that a studio should wait to develop. Put that in their pocket right on day one. It's going to be necessary. Ban everything this person has.
I agree 100%. I do agree with that. And I like SWTOR has recently, within the past couple months, has done a legacy ignore.
Right.
And I'm not familiar with what World of Warcraft could be an account ignore, and I think that's something that every studio should do.
Right. On
that one, instead of just doing one tune, because some person, to be nice and friendly, out there who for some reason has you in their target sites, because reasons, can just, like you said, flip over to another tune, create another tune, find you, and create the same toxic behavior, ruining your game, ruining your experience within the game, which does the company zero good whatsoever, and does your experience within that game and with the company no good whatsoever. But I like the fact that there are companies like BioWare and Blizzard as well who are doing account wide. So if you're going out there trying to like pick on this one person because they stole something from you, or you just didn't like their name or how they looked, they banned the whole entire account from you being able to pick on the person.
Right.
I'm a big fan of that. I'm okay with that. If you're being toxic in that type of environment, you do not deserve A, to talk to that person, or B, I'll put it out there, to play the game.
Right. Draq. Pantheon is touted that they're going to be a very community-centric game. What role does the community have in dealing with this kind of behavior?
So I'm going to switch it up just slightly.
Sure.
So the most toxic chat in game that I've ever been involved with is League of Legends. I don't know if you guys have ever done that before.
Oh my gosh.
It is super toxic, right? But
the king of toxicity.
The king, right? But what they did smartly 3 years ago was they put in a community reporting system, right? And all this chat is being logged, right? So you can tell if somebody is making stuff up or not, because it's being logged. So what you do is you report someone, and then if they get reported and it's valid, right? Then what happens is the next time they log in, they have a wait. So they have a 10-minute wait that they just have to sit there.
Oh,
and they
timeout?
Yes.
That's
Before
awesome.
they can do anything in the game, right? You get caught doing that twice, it's a 30-minute wait. You get caught doing it 3 times in your account banned. And then this is the best thing of the whole thing. So what happens, so if I report someone and they get a 10-minute wait, what happens is then Riot Games sends me a little message through the UI and says, hey, we just want to let you know that your report was indeed legal and it was well-founded, and
honored.
we took action against it. So then like, hey, my actions actually mattered and something actually happened, and instead of it just being like in the dark and you don't like, because in some games you report things and you never know if anything ever happened.
You get a general message that says, due to privacy we cannot tell you what happened, but we will investigate this, and that's all you know.
And they don't tell you what they did, right? So it's not like they're not getting into people's business.
That's cool.
But just that little message that says, hey, we saw your thing, it was right, and we punished them, is like, dude, it just like lifts your whole thing. You're like, yeah, like it's worth it. Because in games before, you report, it doesn't never seem like anything happens. But just that little message, you're like, okay, now I'm going to report all the bad people all the time because I know that it's actually working.
That is true.
That is a fantastic idea.
Yeah,
I just want to throw that.
So
out
I
there.
do still want to know, like, do you think that the community should handle things like that? When I played EverQuest, if somebody had a bad reputation for being, as Boomy said, a douche nozzle, then
douche canoe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have all these words floating around. This is what happens when Boomy shows up on the show.
Like, if the word got out that that person was toxic, they couldn't find a guild, they couldn't find a group. So does community should the community create its own blacklist, let's say?
I think the community should be somewhat involved with it, but they can't be ultimately involved. Because, like, if you said EverQuest, for example, right? They used to do that, and I totally ran a blacklist back in the day. But the problem with that is there always ends up with one guild that is the jerk guild, right? And they're just
they all congregate
as the jerk people, and their motto is, we accept anyone that's a jerk, and that's fine. Right?
That's a valid point.
And then they'll hate each other and then break up.
Yeah, right. And it doesn't matter, because you know that at the end of the day, even if I'm a jerk and even if I steal everything, that I can still get into the jerk guild because they'll take me. And so I think there should be an element of community involvement, but at the end of the day, I think that the developer of the game has to step in at some point, and you have to take action against some of this stuff, especially if it's super offensive and is attacking people or stalking people, or that kind of stuff is icky, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't know if you have kids or not, Draq. I know that the other panel members are parents. And I'm sure you guys don't want your kids playing games where that kind of chat is just readily accepted. And you want your kids to be able to play games like these. I don't know what their ESRB ratings are going to be for either of these games. That would be interesting to see. Like, should that also play a role in what level of policing they have? But again, I'm sure we could have a discussion again, an hour-long discussion on just toxic chat. I think we'll step into something a little bit more controversial, though, because I know that Draq has some high opinions on this, and they actually, I'm on the other side of the fence with multiboxing. I don't have an issue with people running multiple instances of the same game. If they want to run, level 2 characters at once that are theirs, and they have 2 keyboards and 2 mice, and they're running that, I don't have a problem with that. Draq, you and I had a brief discussion about this. Tell me, why you think this is a bad thing.
Well, let me preface it by saying most of my opinions are for specifically geared towards Pantheon, right? And so
Okay.
Pantheon's a game where you're very in need of a group itself, right? And so the reason that you would multi-box is to circumvent the need for the group. So for me,
Yes.
that circumvents the game itself, right? Part of the game is that you go out, you find friends, and you group together. Well, if you have 6 computers in your house with 6 keyboards, you don't need anybody else to play. You're back to a one-player RPG. And I know people that have done that, right? I've played with those people on EverQuest, and people will say that like you can't do that and it's not efficient. It doesn't have to be efficient. All it has to be is profitable, and people will do it and camp it. And they're more efficient than you think they are. Go look up the YouTube video of the guy that plays 64 people in WoW at one time. Like, it's super scary. He marches them down the road, makes turns, kills things.
He is the Zerg.
Dude, he killed a raid boss, right? Like, it's not. They can do more than you think they can do, and I just. At the end of the day, I don't think that you should. If you're going to do boxing, you should make it its own server, and you should separate that from the regular crowd, because I just think it really circumvents, especially with Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, where the group play is such a central part of what they're trying to do, and if you can circumvent that, I just really think it damages the game.
Okay.
I
Boomy,
definitely
do you have an
think,
opinion on? Oh, sorry. Go
well,
ahead.
I think that was a fantastic point, Draq, that is especially in Pantheon, where it's the whole game is designed around you can't do anything on your own. You've got a group, and you have to design your group well in order to handle whatever it is that you're going out there to fight. That matters, right? You are ruining that part of the game by being able to slave something to you and you all just run around together. Although I wonder how easy it will be, given the complexity of the game, and when you need to get heals off, and when you need and where you need to position the tank. You know what I'm saying? I think it may not be necessarily as easy in Pantheon to multi-box as people think it's going to be. But I want to see this in action. To be able to actually see it. But I don't want to see it in action too.
Right.
So,
Boomy, do you have any strong feelings about multi-boxing?
I don't care. Listen, I looked up multi-boxing just to make sure I remembered what it was. And here's my thing on multi-boxing. One, you have to be a very lonely person.
True.
Because,
Very true.
and with a lot of money from mommy and daddy. Because what it takes to multi-box is a butt ton of money from multiple computers, multiple desktops, laptops, however you want to do it. You have to not have a job and spend all the time having all the butt ton of free, and not to mention World of Warcraft, right? $15 a month to sub for your account.
Right.
If you've got, let's just call the number, 64 accounts, that's a lot of stimulus money right there. So, with that being said, you're a loser. Do I care about it? No, because I thought about this today at work, because that's professional. If you're the vast majority of the community, whatever game we're playing, SOTOR, Ashes Creation, Pantheon, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 15,000, whatever game we're playing, the number of people multi-boxing is extremely low compared to the vast majority of the community. So when it comes to a person multi-boxing, I'm sorry that you need to multi-box to get ahead in things. Yeah. But to me, it doesn't really matter. If you need to go ahead and multi-box to get stuff done, to me, that's honestly personal.
Well, let me say this though. This may be a slight counter to that, right? People will multi-box in order to power level characters that they can then turn around at endgame and sell. Hey, here's a fully level character, and that helps to fuel the gold selling market. People buy them for the gold or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So they do chain these things together. You can't look just at any one of these necessarily. Maybe Toxic Chat, but as a problem within itself, it is a part of a system, right?
Right.
does that raise the stakes a bit for you, Boomy? If you think of it in terms of that.
If you look at the millions of players who play World of Warcraft and the million of players who play with SWTOR, you're looking at a very small number of people who multi-box, and you're looking at people who don't want to work for it. I think no matter what game we play, whether it's Ashes, Pantheon, World of Warcraft, Star Wars: The Old Republic, if you want to get the most out of the game, and I could be biased on this, play the game. Play the game for what it's worth. Play the game for what the developers put their time and energy into it. Multiboxing, that's an extremely small part of the community. A very small part of the community that has the means and the time and opportunity to do that.
Fair enough.
To me, they're just like, they're not a big part of the community. Do they sell their accounts? I know a friend who did that. He sold his account. Was he multiboxing? No, but he sold his account. I can see the monetary value behind that, but the time and money related to that, I think, is such a small part of the community that it really does not, at least for me, impact my gameplay.
Fair enough. All right, so the topic I forgot to put onto our poll was botting, which I think ties into multi-boxing to a degree. Like, if you're botting in order to multi-box, then obviously that's bad. But just in general, I remember in games, you go out to a certain area and I'm gonna go kill mobs out here. I'm gonna go farm some materials out here, and you see a person out there doing it. And you come back like 4 hours later and they're still there. And then you go to sleep and you come back the next day at 8 hours after that and they're still there. Clearly it's being automated, or it's an account sharing situation, which we didn't add into our list either. So is botting is obviously bad. Should the developers have some sort of timer on your account that should be like, you've been online for 26 hours, are you there?
Should be a flag.
I would love their time.
Back in my time in Galaxies, people used to do this. In order to level up a doctor, you would have to do a lot of doctor stuff, right? In order to be a field medic or whatever you want to be. So people would write macros, and then they would just go park them in the spaceport, and then as people would come through, it would be, the macro would say, hey, if you're interested in getting buffed, come group with me. So then you send a group invite to them, and then that would start the group. And then, it would be, okay, well, welcome to the group. Here is your whatever buff. And then it would apply this buff. And then it would apply that buff. And then it would apply this buff. And then it would apply that buff. So you get all your buffs out of this doctor person. And then would say, thank you so much. I would appreciate a tip. And you could /tip somebody and give them some cash if you wanted to. And then you could go ungroup and go your merry way. And that macro would continue to run.
In-game macros?
In-game macros.
That the game allowed?
Yes. And I've not seen a game allow macros since, although I know there are games out there, right? So they did it to themselves. I'm going to say that, right? But that's the kind of botting. Now, whether you do it in-game or out of game, it's automated action, right? You're gaining experience or doing something by not playing the game. Maybe my position on this would be similar to the one Boomy took in the previous one. It doesn't affect me. If you want to hook that up and level up your character that way, you're just ruining the experience for yourself. Go ahead.
I will say that this totally reminded me of a friend of mine who actually got me into World of Warcraft. He bought it. I remember watching on his laptop. I know it's a laptop. We won't talk about it. But he was botting his bear on his druid in a dungeon. He didn't have a lot of time. College student, I get that. But he was a computer whiz, so I'm like, oh, okay. I'd rather play personally by myself. I'd rather play and experience a game how I would like to experience it.
Right.
Do we call botting cheating? I would argue yes. It is cheating. Be fair. It's not how real life works. However, with if I might bring in Raid, Shadow Legends, and whatnot, there's a great part where you can do autoplay. I can literally go off, and I've done this many times. So if they want to sponsor me, It's hard not.
Here's his confession, basically.
To where, if you're listening, I play you a lot. I can go off to work, have 30 dungeons going on. One person, not 30 different dungeons, and it plays the dungeons 30 times, auto fight, party on, it does it. So if there's a mechanic in the game, the developers know you're going to play it, right?
Right. They're expecting it.
Party on. But if you're botting, I'm sorry. A, get a life. B, play the game how, I know I'm contradicting myself, how you want to play, but at the same time,
Play the game, though.
play the game. Yeah. The developers put a billion kajillion hours sleepless, not with their families, sleeping at Blizzard headquarters, sleeping at Austin, Texas, to build the game, to all the stuff, from the mechanics, to the environment, to the graphics, to whatnot. Play the freaking game. Because you're really, in the long run, out of all this discussion, we're stealing the experience of the game from ourselves. We're not really encompassing and experiencing the game how it should be by botting or multi-boxing or what that. You're not going to get the true meaning of the game from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
True enough. Any comments, Draq?
Yeah, I'm against botting.
So am I. I get that. I agree with you.
I'm not saying you're not. I'm just saying. So I actually, may or may not have, not to confirm or deny, I may have botted in the past. If you have a Naga mouse, it's built right into the thing,
is.
right?
Yeah. You can run macros.
I can make it do whatever I want, right? And so I can sit on EverQuest with 2 mages, and I may or may not have done this, but I can level from level 1 all the way to 60, and the only thing I do is move my character from one build to the next, and I can play for like 48 hours straight and never actually cast a spell or do anything other than just set up macros and make it go, right? And the only thing I do is move to zones when I out level it. And so, but that's the problem with that is that you're circumventing the spirit of the game, and you're making yourself more powerful because you can put it on autoplay. And like, if the game is set up to do that, then that's great. Go for it. Or maybe there's botting servers or whatever, that's fine, whatever. But if it's supposed to be just everybody gets on and plays when they can, then botting is obviously cheating, and you should get the hammer for it, as a ban, or at least like a week suspension and then a ban if you get caught twice. I just think there's no way you can do that, and or it's bad for the game.
Not to mention the potential devastation it can do to an economy if somebody's going around and harvesting via botting. Like, that's just like an insane amount of in-game currency that can be earned by participating in that.
Right. And it always destroys the trade skills first, right?
Yeah.
I would argue that botting, at least from my experience, 10 years into playing freaking MMOs, boy, that's freaking Alice in Wonderland right there. But botting, from my experience, the biggest community within all of our communities that have gotten the negative effect from that has been the PvP communities, who have gotten the botting, the bad end of the stick of the botting situation, where you have teams completely set up with bots who go against a team of just regular Joe Schmoes like us, and completely decimate us.
Right, because they can, at that millisecond level, realize what spell you're casting and counter it, or that nature. Yeah, I agree that the PvP community can be impacted as well.
Now, PvP is going to affect Ashes a lot more than Pantheon, right? Ashes is built around PvP, so I wonder if that kind of a thing is going to have a massive impact as people begin to implement that kind of cheating.
Yeah. Listen, no matter what we do, no matter what we say, no matter what a developer company says, some guy with a bunch of hot pockets in his basement is going to one-step them.
His own basement or his grandmother's?
It's probably his mommy's basement, probably. Okay. But they're going to one-step the creators of Ashes of Creation, which is primarily a big PvP centric started thing. They're, like I said back in the beginning, you're going to be playing the game of who's going to be first.
Right.
And sadly, unfortunately, because they have no regulations, they don't have bosses over them, the guy behind the screen in their mommy's basement is going ahead long first on that one.
Right.
So it's really like, what do we do to stop that?
Right.
Especially in a PvP centric type game like Ashes is in that one. That's why I don't play on PvP servers.
It's pretty.
He's gonna end up a Pantheon guy.
I know.
You know that, right?
I know. I'm
not.
hearing it. I'm
No.
dying inside a little bit.
It's coming.
No. How dare you, sir?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's going to be super hard to stop them from starting to do it, but it's the retroactive thing that's got to come, right? And once you catch them doing it, then you got to bring down the hammer, and so then hopefully other people see that and say, I kind of like my character, I want to keep it.
Right, and it's on the devs to react quickly to something like that and not let it go on for a month. As somebody who has participated in negative behaviors in the form of what was it called, Sechari, that I did in SWTOR, right? Was glitching out mobs and such.
Cheating relentlessly.
Yeah, cheating.
I will send an email.
Breaking the terms of service.
The Ravagers exploit is
Breaking
what
the
it was.
terms of service, yes.
Right, I was breaking terms of service. But then they knew about this, but they let it go on for a month without
Right.
doing anything about it. So, you know, it's on the developers as well. If something comes out that they need to jump on it and fix it, or mitigate it in some fashion and not let it go on. Because to me, if something goes on for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the devs are saying we don't care. And then they'll come in after the fact and say, "Oh, we do care. We're gonna ban you guys for." And for me, it was a week, and you know, and such, with other repercussions that followed me for a while within SWTOR. All rightfully because I did break the terms of service, but the devs have to act on that stuff quickly and at least acknowledge, saying, "Hey, we know this is going on.
Right.
We are going to fix it. In the meantime, don't participate in this behavior."
Right. Prompt
Did you,
response
though?
always.
What's that? Did I break the terms of service?
Did you though? Okay, I'm gonna say this has been bothering me for a long time. Moxie, you would know. In the SWTOR community, BioWare, love them to death, but this has been my issue with Blizzard. Is different. Blizzard will move on things pretty quickly on stuff. BioWare, however, and this has been my biggest pet peeve outside of 10 different other ones, is their lack of moving on stuff and then blaming the community for stuff. Like the Ravagers thing. God, I remember that back in yonder day when my beard was a lot shorter. I know. Don't think about it. But I remember that. And it has to do with every exploit that goes through the game, whether it's No, we're going to pick on SWTOR for a moment. When it comes to every exploit, the exploit will be there for a long time. And then BioWare will blame the community. Listen, this is my thing, and I'll take this from the Bad Feeling podcast people. If it's in the game, it's not an exploit.
Yeah.
If the developer is not going to move on this exploit, and we know they know about it. I've got some issues I need to talk to the therapist about, but I have sent emails. I can't talk about it because of NDA, but there are exploits in the game still to this day that go on at a certain point. When is it actually the developer's responsibility?
Right.
And it's not the community's. If they're not willing to deal with this exploit, to deal with the bug that's in the game, why should we as a community be blamed for it? I can see the first week, first 2 weeks, I will give them the first month. And they say, hey, don't do this. I personally would stop doing it. Most of the time I do it by accident because I thought it's part of the game. We should not be penalized that the company itself is taking forever to deal with that exploit or bug.
Yeah.
How many times has there been a post on the official forums of an MMORPG about a bug or a game-breaking thing that just sits there for like months and they do nothing about it? I mean, that's happened to me
Right?
tons of times.
Yeah.
Like it's on the official forums. You know what's going on.
So why the hell is it our fault?
Yeah,
no,
well, it depends.
I
You're
did not
telling
mean
me
to
to go
go down
do
this
it.
rabbit
Yeah.
trail. I'm sorry.
It is the philosophy, right? I mean, so one of the things is this is software, and they have to go fix the bugs. They have to go address it, and sometimes that takes time. So, they're responding as fast as they can, but they've got to get it, and there's got to be regression testing, all kinds of things they have to do, make sure other stuff doesn't break when they address the bug. I mean, there's a lot to it. So.
I get that, but for example, with the Ravager's bug, there was an NPC you talked to outside to set your instance. Delete the NPC.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not that. Put a wall up.
Yeah,
Like they're things they could turn off the
fix it
instance
and
zone
bring
line.
it
Like
back.
there are
Yeah.
things they could have done to stop what was going on, but it was the holidays, and they didn't want to call anybody in to
Yeah.
do the fix.
Come on.
That
I agree with you, Mox, because I can tell your tone of voice. That's just a freaking excuse.
all right.
On
Let's
my
move. Let's move on now.
No, let's not. I've got some underlying issues with BioWare that I'm just starting to get out.
This is therapy for him.
I
So
need to talk about this. I need to sit on a couch.
It's been years, but we finally made it to the Disparate Worlds podcast. So
yes,
we
we
can
have.
get it out.
Boomy, drink more bourbon, sir. That'll get you through the evening.
I have sent them emails. I can't talk about it.
Okay. Take a deep breath.
Stupid
It'll be okay.
laws.
It'll be
NDAs
okay.
with EA.
So let's talk about. Can we just lump these other two ones because we're getting along?
I think we can. Yes, I think that really the ultimately kill stealing and training of mobs really the question then becomes like I don't think these are developer studio issues. I think these are community policing personally issues. I don't think that that you can like unless you I mean I guess the question becomes like can there be kill stealing in Ashes, Sechari? Like can you explain the locking of encounters or lack thereof?
Yeah, I mean, we've covered this in a previous episode. There is, I think it counts more with bosses probably than it would with your average mob out there in the field, right? If I can see if you're out there and you're having to farm a certain mob for the specific drop and you just can't get it to drop, someone else showing up to wreck them all before you get there, that's the kind of harassment we're talking about here.
Right.
That is outside of the mechanic that Ashes of Creation is going to have, where me and my team are doing a certain amount of DPS on this boss, and another team shows up and they've got to get and they start to fight the boss too, and they've got to be above 60% threshold of damage on this boss in order to win the loot rights. Now I can see that happening, but that's per game rules. And me and my group, if we've done some work on this boss already before they show up, chances are we'll get more than our 60% of the damage. We'll get the loot rights. It's not that big a deal. So less of a problem with the bosses, but I think more with the average mob out there that you're trying to go farm in order to get a drop, that low drop.
Let's say you're in an open world dungeon. You fought your way to the boss mob, and your team is recovering. They're getting their mana back, their health and all, and somebody else runs in and tags the guy you're about to kill.
Yes, in open world, that is, that's one of the problems of open world approach to MMOs as opposed to instanced. I would still rather wait for them to finish, wait for the respawn, and then we go in and fight this guy, because it's open world, and I like open world more than an instanced thing. But if you go and have an open world, when you sign up as, hey, I'm going to play this game, you need to realize that that's going to happen. I think. Okay. Right. Have a little bit of a tough shell, but I agree it's bad behavior. I mean, like, look, if you show up and someone else is waiting on the boss, have some courtesy. It's a friendly etiquette type of thing to do. Let them have the next shot at the boss. But that's my opinion.
I would agree with that opinion.
Yeah.
And this is something I honestly had to look it up. Like, and it brought back memories from killing Deathwing. You're welcome. And I would agree. Is just wait. like I understand there's people who just want to get the things all now. They want to get it now, and I understand that there are people who would get offended by people. Like here's a story. It's really short. Don't worry. Which it wasn't a killing of a boss or whatnot that they stole from someone, but it was killing of an ore node that they're like, they got so bent out of shape because someone took their minerals in World of Warcraft that I literally had to like calm them down, be like, listen, y'all know this is going to respawn.
Keys were flying everywhere. Keyboard,
right?
Here goes mine.
Like, I don't know what's going on in your life right now, but give it 1 to 2 minutes. That ore will respawn. Just like the freaking Hogger in World of Warcraft, it's going to respawn. You're okay. Let him get his thing. More often than not, the RNG gods were against him. Maybe they are with you on this one. In my experience, when it comes to the killing and whatnot, it's part of an MMO. You're dealing with different individual people. Everyone's got different stupid things going on in their life. They're going to all act and play their different ways. That's how real life works. In the MMO, in a single player game, it's all you and the computer.
Right.
But in an MMO, you're dealing with real life people. And you just got to take that into account. Life is not fair. They're going to take that node. They're going to kill that boss first. They're going to try to get the best loot out of that boss. But just wait. You could get the legendary item out of that boss, and that ding dong over there is going to get the crappy boots that no one wants. No one wants those boots.
Yeah.
But you got the awesome bow and arrow.
And because you got it the next time, right? You know, it just happened to be the time that they dropped it. So,
right.
All right. Granted, it may also happen the opposite way around, but we won't go there.
So, Draq, what's your thoughts about training of mobs on people?
Yes. So I think, again, I like the community piece of this. I like the if you're in an open world, I like the fact that trains happen. I like the fact that people don't know where they're going and they accidentally create trains.
Let's take a real quick second and explain, because some people may not understand what training mobs means. So let's say your group engages a group of mobs or a single mob, and they're losing badly, and you're the cleric and you're running for your life at this point because everyone else is dying and you need to go back and res the group. So you run that mob or group of mobs to the zone line to break aggro, but then there's people sitting at the zone line waiting for a group or whatever. That's frequently happened in EverQuest. That's why I'm using that as kind of the example. And then those mobs, after you have, they weren't locked on you. So when somebody at the zone line will then get aggro, and then the mobs will start beating up on them. Right. So that's what we mean by training mobs on people. And it was a faux pas in the EverQuest time period. And I'm curious to that you're interested in that behavior.
Or you die halfway to the zone line, and then as the mobs are walking back, they murder everyone.
Right.
Which was also a good time. And so I'm okay with it. I think that training should be a natural part of an open world game. I think it's a lot of fun. Now, if someone is abusing the training mechanic, right? If they're just over and over and over and over again,
or doing it to grief people,
right? Then they should obviously be reported, and there should be punishment doled out for that, right? But it shouldn't, like, there's a lot of situations where people think that people did it on purpose, but it wasn't that way, right? So you should be pretty. It should be really obvious, and it probably should be multiple times that you get trained before we jump to the they did it on purpose thing. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Because it's an open world, and as Boom was saying, like, it's a dirty business and people are crazy, and you rub shoulders with other people, and that is, for me, that is the fun of MMORPGs, right? I want to rub shoulders with other people. I want to, even the good ones, the bad ones, the ugly ones, right? I want it all.
Fair
Not
enough.
the ugly ones.
And you end up with a group of boomies.
There you go.
Like the Boomies say. He said. Yeah.
No, I would agree with. I'm sorry. I would agree with what he was saying on that one. Like, it is an MMO. Know what you're getting into.
Fair
You're
enough.
dealing with a world of millions. Like in World of Warcraft, let's talk about them because I've been with World of Warcraft for over 10 years. And so Star Wars: The Old Republic. No matter even freaking Final Fantasy 14. Yes, you're dealing with millions of players, millions of people. It's a live game. Everyone is going to respond differently. They're not just going to be like you. And that's the great part of it, right? You're not just playing a single player game by yourself, killing zombies or dragons or dwarves or whatnot, but you're experiencing a game with other people in real time.
Right.
That's, to me, that is the best part of it. That's why I love seeing like Stormwind or Fleet or what have you. Tons of people playing at the same time. Everyone is different, and I think that's what makes life the most incredible part of it. But everyone's going to respond to things differently, and you're always going to have the douche canoes in life who are going to try to ruin everything for you because they're not happy X, Y, and Z. Right? So it's I think when you come into an MMO or M&M, you need to realize it's just not you.
Right.
And that's what I try to tell my community. It's you're dealing with real life people in a make-believe game. And they're going, and more often than not, they're going to respond to things in ways they would typically respond in real life if they didn't have the structure of limits, liabilities, bosses, whatnot.
Society.
It's society. It's the keyboard warriors of life that we're talking about.
But this is not unlike the guy who cuts you off on the freeway, right? Or the person who yells at you at work, right? It's other people, and you got people that are great to you at work and people that are courteous to you on the freeway. You just have the intermixture of everyone else that has some of these toxic behaviors as well. And what can you do? Well, the best you can. I mean, you can, flag a cop, right, I guess. Right, but in the game, you almost have more avenues to report people or to make things known to authorities in the game than you have in real life. So you're kind of ahead of the game in that sense, So.
True.
I would agree.
You're only reporting that guy in real life if he hits you, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a whole different story.
I would agree, but I would also give some caution to this. And I've said this in a couple of videos of mine back in yonder day, is we don't want to get trigger happy with the report button.
True.
Right.
Because a lot of times we find our emotions, like my background, I have a degree in psychology. So with the background of how emotion plays in things and how it controls almost everything, especially in the context of playing video games. We have a certain set and goals that we want to go to. We want to kill that boss. We want to get all this ore for the materials. Someone comes in and disrupts that.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions go straight out the window. But you have the opportunity to hit that report button. And that's where I think the problem sometimes really lies. Is that person actually doing this to grief you, to make your life horrible? Or did that person actually just not even realize you were there?
And you perceived it that way, right?
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's the fine line developers have to toe. And I am glad I'm not one of them, because that is some slippery, thin ice they have to deal with. Again, damned if you do, damned if you don't on that situation.
I'd also like to say that, so one of the big problems that I think that EverQuest had was they made the stakes too high, right? And so when you have a mob that's on a 54-hour respawn timer and someone kill steals that from you, like you are going to rage.
Right.
Like you have been
Reasonably
up for
so.
more than 2 days straight camping that mob, and I've done that before, right? And if somebody comes in there and steals that, then that's a huge deal, right? Because you know that you're going to have to do that again, 54 more hours, and sit there and watch nothing for 54 hours.
Right.
So that obviously WoW solved that issue, and other MMOs, nobody's went back to that type of long camp times, and no one needs to. Please never, no MMO should ever bring that type of camping spawn times back. The maximum amount of time that you should sit in front of one spot should be like 2 to 3 hours. That's it. Otherwise, the kill stealing, it will be justified, because if I sat there for 54 hours to kill one mob to get the thing I needed for my epic weapon, and somebody takes it, I'm gonna rage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
If you have the time to wait for 54 hours.
Well,
I would like to
I was
talk
much
about
younger, much younger when I did that.
Yes, we've all been that dedicated before, that is for sure.
All right, well, guys, I want to thank you for coming and joining us and talking about all these various negative player behaviors. I think we all agree that it's going to be a combination of actions on the part of the studios and actions on the community to be aware of and be kind of in present in the moment. And as Boomy said, kind of take a moment and look and see like what's the other side of this interaction. Was it actually intentional, or was it accidental? And all that stuff should go into our steps that we take to resolve these particular situations. So again, make sure you check out Boomy. We'll have links to his stuff in our description, and as well as Draq stuff to link to his temporary personal Twitter and to the Pantheon Plus stuff.
If he has a Twitter, who knows?
Who knows? By the time this publishes,
Right.
it may be different.
It's week for me.
That's funny.
Follow this guy. I like him. My beard approves.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Excellent. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
guys.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, friends, very much thank you for watching a very long interview. Those of you who stuck through it. We
Two great
appreciate
guys,
you.
though.
Yeah, very cool. It was cool to kind of put them together and see how they would react. It was kind of fun. Everything is an experience with Boomy.
Yes,
and
it's true.
He didn't even so Boomy has a number of characters that he portrays. I'd almost like to get him together with Nathan Napalm at some point and see what the puppet versus, because Boomy's got like this
have him
whole
do the voices for the puppets.
Yeah, he's got this whole multiple personality kind of thing. He's got lots of different characters he does, so it's interesting. But thank you again, guys. Very much appreciate you joining us for just a panel discussion and sharing of thoughts with regard to bad behaviors in MMOs and how we think Ashes of Creation and Pantheon Rise of the Fallen might possibly be able to try to deal with these things, as troublesome as they are. Yeah, I just want to throw out there again, do check out Ashes of Creation's Alpha 1 Adventurer Pack. There is it's online, it's ready to go. You can pick it up, so definitely pony up the cash. It will be fun to test along with you. We will have a link. Do follow that and check that one out.
Make sure you check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Disparate Worlds, on Twitter at Disparate Worlds, and our website, disparateworlds.org. In addition, on our website and in the link below is our Discord. Please do join us there and have conversations. Let us know what you thought about this episode, and also let us know in the comments what you thought about this episode.
Definitely. Also check out the social media, by the way, of our guests this episode. I'm sure they would appreciate it, but I think they're doing us more of a favor than the other way around. Along those lines, that will be it for us this episode, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. Much appreciated. Do drop a comment. Do the whole like, subscribe thing. There's a notification bell down below. Do check that as well, because that way you will not miss upcoming episodes. All of that said, take care of yourselves. Remember always to be immovable in your principles and irresistible in your passion.